Hello everyone and welcome to our second video in this text adventure game series. The first video describes what exactly a text adventure game is through a skit, but basically it's like a choose your own adventure game. It doesn't have to be fantasy, but I like fantasy, so I'm gonna use that element in my game. But it can just be like an everyday scenario, like at school, like you're trying to escape the school or something from an evil teacher. So before we get started, an important thing is that you should know how to use functions fluently. Not perfectly, but fluently enough. Like you should have finished the calculator project video and created your own type of calculator. And then I think you're good to go for this first video. So let's get right into it. Okay, so this is the first part of our text adventure game, the backstory. Now, before we get into the backstory, I just want to talk about this first part right here, where we define a bunch of variables: gold, health, attack, name. These are called global variables because basically it's global. The entire program knows it's there. It's not localized inside of a function. We'll talk about what exactly that means. But basically, you can access it anywhere. I can change gold, like I could be like gold equals gold plus 1, and it'll change. The entire code knows what gold is. Okay, now each of these are pre-assigned numbers, so we have 0 gold, 100 health, 10 attack. This can all change, but I do recommend you add some sort of your own touch when it comes to attributes, like your player attributes. Like for example, in my endless woodland game, it's something that I demonstrate to my newer students. I have a variable called sanity, which keeps track of how basically sane they are because they're lost in the woods. You know, they can go insane. That's another way they can lose the game. So make the game more interesting by adding different attributes that they have to keep track of, stats, if you get what I'm saying. The second thing is this def backstory function. So let's dissect it. The first thing is the doc string right here. So if you don't know what a doc string is, it's basically what follows after a function. It is essential that you have a doc string for every function. It doesn't affect the code in any way, but it tells your future self, as well as any other users, what exactly your function does. So I mean, it's kind of explanatory, right? Backstory. Oh, of course, it plans the backstory. But this one gives you a bit more in-depth analysis on what it does without you going through the entire code. So basically, we ask for the user's name and print out a backstory. Simple. Now, two things I want to point out is the \new. We've seen this before in the calculator project video, but basically this prints out a new line. It's really helpful. And then the second thing I want to point out is global name. You probably haven't seen this before, but what this does is it allows us to change name inside of a function. So you might be wondering, if it's global, then why can't I change it anywhere? Well, the problem is that inside of a functions, if you create a variable inside the function, like if I say new var equals 0, I can change this. But I can't change something that's globally defined unless I state that, oh, okay, it's a global name. It's there. We're going to be using it, if you get what I'm saying. Um, if you're kind of unsure on what exactly it does, you can ask us. For right now, you should know that if you want to change a global variable inside of a function, you have to declare it to be global inside of your function. So this is all self-explanatory, right? And remember, when you call it, you have to say backstory like this. So let's run this and see what happens. What is your duo's name? Kaifa Corpse. Don't ask why. And we have this nice backstory. Go all out. Like, this was random, but like actually wanted to see like good backstories. Maybe add some sort of like secret lore in there, or you can just give a general backstory. It doesn't matter. Let's move on. Now we're going to get into the juicy stuff, the start function. This is where it all starts. And you'll see later on how we're going to use this to kind of basically build our game, this type of formatting. And it's very important that you understand this. So first, of course, the doc string. We ask the user if they want to go to the left cave or the right cave. This main direction right here, one thing I want to point out is that it's a local variable. So the difference between a local variable and a global variable is that a global variable, like I said, the entire code knows what it is, but a local variable, you can't access it from anywhere else and you can't change it. You can only do it inside of the start function. So the backstory function doesn't know what main direction is. So you have to make sure that if you want the entire code to know what main direction is, you globally declare it up here instead of declaring it inside this function. After we ask them if they want to go left or right, they're going to enter L or R. Now, as a developer, the important thing is that you make sure your user does not crash. So one way we can check this is instead of just checking for capital L, instead of saying main direction equals capital L, we want to make it so that they can enter either lowercase l or uppercase L. So to do that, what we do is we basically take their input, whether it's capital or lowercase, and we lower it. We do dot lower. So a capital L becomes lowercase l. And then we compare that to the lowercase version of L. Therefore, we can take in both the capital L and the lowercase l. We can check for both of them at the same time, if that makes sense. And based on their direction, left or right, we either go to the monster cove or the diamond cave. And these functions, make sure your functions like make sense, the name, like for example, backstory, start. It's kind of self-explanatory. Oh, the start function, that's where it all starts. Monster cove, this is where the monsters are located. You know, kind of make it obvious. But yeah, we basically call the monster cove function. We haven't defined it yet. We will. But not right now. That's not the important thing. The important thing is the else statement. Let's say they enter some random gibberish, okay? They enter north because they want to troll. Well, we got that covered too. Remember, our goal as a developer is to make sure the user doesn't crash. So, what happens if they troll us and enter something random? Well, first of all, we're going to say that they didn't enter something correctly. Most of you guys do this. You're like, that's the wrong answer. That's invalid. You can't do that. But then your code stops. How do you make your code go on forever, basically, until they enter the correct answer? Well, for those of you who are a bit more advanced, you're probably thinking, hey, what about for loops or while loops? That's a good alternative. But the way I'm going to show you is much easier. All you have to do is recall the start function. Let me repeat that again. All you have to do is recall the start function. Basically, you run this entire thing again. Oh, they didn't enter something correct again? Run this entire thing again. Run this entire thing again. Oh, they actually entered L? Okay, then let's go to the monster cove. So this is our like failsafe, our backup plan if they enter something wrong. And you should always make sure that you have a backup plan and that your code never suddenly ends if they enter something wrong. So if you're kind of confused on what exactly a recursive function is, and this is basically a recursive function, it's very simple. You can ask us again on the Discord. Now there's one last thing I want to show you. Up here, I added the diamond cave and the monster cove functions. So you're gonna have a lot of plans, right? And we'll tell you in the workshop. Usually you just create a file like this and you call it plan.txt. Contains all your plans, and then you basically write out all your plans. And we'll show you a method for doing that. Maybe in another video or at the workshop itself. Right now, that's not important. But when you're doing your plans, you're gonna have plans for a lot of different functions. You're already gonna plan out your game. Now let's say you have this diamond cave function. You know that it's going to be a diamond cave, but you're not exactly sure what's going to happen. What pass does is basically nothing happens. We have it defined, right? But it does nothing. So it's really helpful for mapping out our code. Oh, we have a diamond cave function. We have a monster cove function. It doesn't do anything yet, but we want to get back to that. So that's just a helpful little developer trick that you can use. Now, I hope this video explains a lot of the core concepts behind the text adventure game. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact any of us on the Discord or ask us on the workshop itself. So yeah, I hope to see you maybe next Saturday or the Saturday after. Peace.